Well, welcome to a new episode of Techman Talks Dynamics. It's been a little while since we've got together, and there's only two of us today. James isn't well, and the subject we're talking about, Liz wasn't that, so we've just jumped in front of the camera. What we're going to cover today, I hope, is an event that we went to, that we've gone for many years, called Directions EMEA, which is the Business Central conference for all of Europe. And the Middle East,
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And Africa.
And Africa, you mustn't forget all the continents that come. And we have 3 days there where Microsoft send about 120 people. I think we're there this year from Microsoft. There's a lot of the community partners like ourselves. It's a partner event, so just clarifying what happens or who's there. And Microsoft talk about the product, where it's at, what's coming. We go then into a whole bunch of breakouts. We get more knowledge around various topics. There's hundreds and hundreds of breakouts over the 3 days. And we get to speak to some of the partners that we work with in terms of the ISV solutions as well.
It's like a big version of our Customer Day BC Connect.
Indeed. Yeah. Trying to think of a couple of things that doesn't happen on our BC Connect Day, but yeah, it's a good event and it's a great way of Microsoft transferring that knowledge to partners. And then what we've decided to do today is really brain dump some of the stuff that's fresh in the mind, and so we can share it with the end users about what's relevant for them and what again is coming down the line. So I think we thought we'd start with, if we talk about the platform, what Microsoft is saying. I mean, the one thing, the conference has grown since you and I have been going over probably the last decade or 15 years.
It was a few hundred early days, wasn't it?
It was, and there was, I think, 3,200 people there this year. So it's grown massively, and it gives an indication of what's happening within Business Central. It's growing so quickly. People that are selling it, supporting it, and that's obviously driven by people that are buying it, the end users at the other end. So, and I think the other big thing to mention, I think we've seen in the last 12 months, it really seems to have landed on Microsoft's, like the big part of Microsoft's radar, that this is a product that's churning good numbers for them, because let's be honest, that's what they're interested in. But that encourages them to put more functionality, more features, more investment in the product, because it's growing, and obviously they want to keep that momentum with it. So I think from that point of view, that's where the product is coming from. They announced for the first time for a long time, I can remember the amount of users or organisations on the SaaS platform. So this isn't people on-premise Navision from all those years ago, or even people using Business Central on-premise. It's those that are on the SaaS platform. And it was
40,000
organisations.
and growing.
Yeah. I think they said they were hoping to hit 50,000 in the next 2 or 3 months. So you can suddenly see the trajectory they're getting up and the speed they're adding to that. So obviously that brings some challenges. When we first went to the SaaS platform, there was some issues that used to be occurring around performance. We're not seeing those now.
Absolutely not, no. Because it used to be that a tenant, so a cloud tenant, is shared, and they still do that. But they didn't really have any tools to deal with noisy neighbours, as they called it. So if one particular system was doing a lot of work, it could affect the rest. Right. The capability that they have on those systems now is just amazing in terms of the monitoring that they're doing, and it can just swap you straight over to another kind of service tier. Even if you're running multiple processes with different users, it can share that across multiple service tiers as well. So scalability has just gone through the roof. And we saw that last Directions when they're talking about what is a big Business Central user. The biggest they saw was posting about 1.2 million invoice lines a day, which was unheard of on premise days just a few years ago. And they're not saying that's the limit, that's just the biggest. Yeah. I heard a comment that some of the larger systems they don't actually make any money on.
But who, Microsoft? Yeah. Their
view it's just kind of swings and roundabouts, that it's about giving the service, and the service guarantees that I saw a statement that they said that we will guarantee whatever unlimited, and that with an asterisk next to it, unlimited performance. And I thought that was a bold statement.
Yeah, because you think of those organisations that we work with that still take Business Central and put it on their own Azure platform. As they scale up, the costs associated with it go with it, don't they? Your Azure bill increases.
Absolutely. I mean, I've seen some customers where they're virtually ready to move over to SaaS, and you look at their Azure bill, and it's more than they'll be paying even on full subscription licenses. Yeah. So it's certainly value as well.
Okay. I think you talked about the scale and the capability of the platform. Microsoft also noticeably now are saying, look, this is directed and they're going to start marketing it at the mid-sized organisations. So where we've always felt...
We're seeing that already.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking to company groups, and then they're rolling it out across multiple organisations. But Microsoft seems to have clocked on this as well now, and where it always used to be, this is the SMB solution down at the 5 and 10 users. Great if you can sell a few bigger ones, but that seemed to be their focus. Now, the messaging we were hearing, it's going to do a great job for those guys moving from smaller products, but those organisations that need it as well, the blur between what used to be an enterprise product and Business Central really seems to have... No, it's not even a blur now. It'll go, like you said, up to, unless there's a particular reason, Business Central is a great product for businesses of all size.
Okay. I mean, they were talking about 1,000 plus users. Fine.
Wow. Okay. So that's the state of the market and what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of interest in Business Central, which is great. I guess the other thing you couldn't get away from last week is AI and Copilot.
So there was because there's a lot of ISVs, independent software vendors. So the organisations that go out and sell add-ons, a bit like Clever Dynamics. There's a lot of ISVs out there. We know a lot of them, and that Directions is a great opportunity to go and see new ones and have discussions and understand what they're adding to the market. But I think one of the ISVs was running a bingo card in terms of how many times
Copilot and AI.
Copilot and AI was said, and I think you had to guess how many, and there was a winner at the end as to who was closest.
I think every time they mentioned AI, then there was a picture of the Terminator and going, it's not going to be like this. I must have seen that deck about 3 times. But so we've been talking about Copilot for a while now on the podcast. Copilot is Microsoft's branding name, whatever you want to call it, for their AI offering. I heard a good description that Copilot is the UI, the user interface for their AI. So it's something, across all their products, you have a Copilot icon, you click on it and you get some functionality, you can ask it some questions.
The difference between Copilot and ChatGPT?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because ChatGPT is the main, probably the most well-known AI tool. It's free, it's open source. And there are some concerns around what happens to the data either with what you're querying on that, or if you can upload documents to that as well now.
To analyse it.
To look at it. When you look at some of the statements from ChatGPT, they will say, look, anything you upload, that data can be used to help our I don't know if algorithm's the right word, but to maintain their product, the evolution of what they're doing. The difference between Copilot is that anything that you point at your own data, Microsoft aren't using that. So we use Copilot, and you might have a look at this SharePoint library, have a look at this document, have a look at my emails. It's not taking that and then using it. It remains within the boundaries of TechMan or organisation. So I think you're right to point that out. It's a big, and Microsoft are making a big push on this. It's secure. It's your data. We're not going to take it anywhere else. We're not going to use it. But that's for you. So they've got Copilot for the web, which goes off publicly, and Copilot for work, which is your own stuff.
And BC Copilot, we've had a few features for a couple of releases now. So the marketing text, where it can generate against a product, an item, can generate some marketing text. It looks at the description and the product category and your item attributes and comes up with a description, and you can tweak that as to how you want to angle it. Doesn't do a bad job, actually. So it takes into context some of the things that you're attaching it. So if it's got particular, certifications, let's say, as an attribute, it goes off and understands from the web what that certification is and helps build that into the description. So it's not, it's got some level of intelligence in there. Fairly limited Copilot so far in BC. The last release, the sales line Copilot, which can help you suggest items. You kind of think, well, most of the time they'll just type in the item number. But a good example is that you can also import data. So you could import a spreadsheet, or you could even just copy and paste an email. And it will read the email and go and try and work out a list of items and quantities that they're trying to order. That's where it starts to get a bit more useful. Yeah.
So Copilot we've had for a while, and as you said, it's probably been used more in content creation, even for the generation of descriptions, etc. And that's what we're seeing for a lot of it in tools. I think that is moving away with general Copilot across the Office stack. But they've introduced something which we'll see all across the Microsoft products, but really influential on the Dynamics products, is something called agents.
Yeah, okay. That's a word that you're going to get to know and maybe love. in years to come.
Yeah, so there's two, I'll get you to run through an example of one of the agents in a minute. Way Microsoft described it, or one of the sessions I sat through, which I found was quite useful. What's the difference between Copilot and what's the difference between an agent? So Copilot is your own personal AI tool. So I will go to Copilot today and I might ask it to summarize my Word document. Yeah. It's very particular to me. I can't conclude something I'm writing. Can you put a concluding paragraph, and it'll go away and do it. You might ask it for 3 different types of things. An agent is something where either Microsoft or a partner or even an end user with the right training can create a tool, an agent, which has some AI capability that would work for the whole organization, a product, a team, something along those lines. So Microsoft have launched one, which you can find the videos on YouTube already, which is the sales order agent, which is a good example of this. It's organizational wide.
Sales agent.
Sales agent, sorry. Do you want to run through what that basically does?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a specific to a business process, so it's dealing with sales interactions. And so you point it at a mailbox, and so if somebody emails in saying they're asking for a quote, your agent will pick that up and give you a task, say, hey, somebody's asking for a quote here, do you want me to create it? And you go, okay, and it creates a quote. So there's always a review process in this. So you'll review it and you go, yeah, that looks okay, confirm. Do you want me to send a reply to your customer? I'm suggesting this text. And it creates a nicely worded reply with a PDF attachment of the quote. Yeah, maybe a little tweak. That's great. Off it goes. Yeah, maybe if you've got a validation period on the quote, it comes back. So do you want to chase this up?
Right.
Customer orders, again, same kind of process. You know, the order's been received. Do you want to create this order? Yes, that looks fine. Do you want me to send an order confirmation back suggesting this format of the email? So it's taking away a lot of those processes. You're just going, yeah, it looks okay, it looks okay. So it's almost guiding you what to do.
So again, it's one of those time-saving things, and that was one of the messages we heard, that there's been a lot of scare in the media, AI is going to remove all these jobs, etc. Yeah. What they were saying is this is going to actually remove a lot of the repetition, as I think good IT has done throughout the years, back to the Industrial Revolution. Takes a lot of the boring, monotonous jobs out of that. You mentioned there,
but he needs a person.
It needs exactly. You still need that person to say yes, this is correct. And I mean, everything Copilot generates, it still puts a caveat that says this is AI generated. Please check it.
The headline is it doesn't always get it right.
Yeah,
so you have to check it.
I did a little demo with Copilot, and it said, right, create me this is in PowerPoint. Create me a PowerPoint around Business Central. Did it fantastic. Gave me a great 25 slides or whatever. And I said, add me something about pricing for Business Central. So it went away. It got not the latest pricing, the pricing before. So it found a document that referenced pricing, but it was the previous price. So you had to check it and use your own thing. You mentioned that on the agent. I mean, I've seen that, watched the demo. I mean, it does some nice stuff though, doesn't it? If that first email comes back in, and it might even prompt some suggestions back. So if they haven't asked for the exact SKU, it might say, we've got 3 of that, and it's composing that email to go back to the customer and say, can I just confirm which one of these you want? We've got no stock of this one. Would you like to buy an alternative? So it is quite neat that the way it can do it. And I guess you can be able to build on that as well and add different complexities in. So that's an agent.
Yes.
And Microsoft are going to release, I think they've released around 8 or 10 agents across the Dynamics platform, not all on Business Central, some around.
Yeah, I mean, they're talking of, I think in the plans, something like 30 plus just for BC.
Okay.
And so, it's as you say, it's changing how you interact with the system. And that's not just BC. The way that we interact with systems via agents is going to be a very different experience.
And they were talking that agents can then interact with other agents.
That's the scary bit. Yeah. And agents can learn from other agents. And the thing is, you don't know what they've learned. And so, the whole security piece. So the Microsoft agents they're building for BC and things like that are very self-contained and secure. However, you can go and build your own agents. And you need to be very, very aware of what you're pointing it at. If your user running the agent has the ability to go and read documents that maybe you don't want everybody else to see, then that agent has visibility of them and it can learn information about them. And if another agent is speaking to your agent, it can then go and expose that. So scary example, and a bit of scaremongering, I think, but there was an example shown where somebody queried up just a standard business website, and because it had got a chat bot on it, which was backed by an agent, that agent had security access to another agent which had access to other data that they could query, and they found the chairman's salary.
Yikes. Okay. So it comes back to the core things which we've always known about IT systems. First of all, your data's got to be good and accurate to get good results.
Yes.
Secondly, your security. I mean, they would call them guardrails now or whatever.
Yeah.
But the agents and AI in general, you need to know where its boundaries are. Otherwise, it can cause a lot of problems.
Yes. It's going to be, it's a new skill, new technologies that people have to understand. And when they were talking about, when you're building AI capabilities, the big chunk up front is getting your data right. Mm-hmm. Building the AI is fairly straightforward these days. Testing it is then a massive amount of time compared to the time to build it.
Okay. So we're definitely not at this moment in time saying, go away, build a bunch of agents, throw them into your system. This is we're on step one of this. I think this comes to, I did a quick look before we came on, this comes to public preview with Business Central, I think January 25. Mm-hmm. It's US based at the moment, but it did seem to be again in January that will be rolled out worldwide, but it looks like maybe not with different languages. It's going to be in English, but okay, I think for most of our customers and users that won't be a problem. So it's going to be available relatively soon. It's in private preview now, so partners like ourselves can have a little play and see what's coming on.
And there's a bookkeeper agent probably also on the list as probably one of the next ones after that.
Okay, so I think most people's first experience of these will be the Microsoft agents that have created that come with the different waves of Business Central. But you do, if you've got the skill set and the inclination and the courage to go out and build your own agents and see how they go. You can have a little play actually with a much more simpler agent. If you pay for Copilot for Microsoft 365 for your Office apps, you can now go to the Microsoft365.com, log in as yourself, and you've got an option to create an agent. And that's far more, point at a SharePoint library in your business. And I was playing around with it, or you can upload a PDF or a big document. So I was playing around with like our HR policies and say, how do I book a holiday? How do I, so the agent.
Very specific task.
Yeah, it's got an element of chatbot about it. I found that it's coming back and they're either giving you answers or prompting you for something else, but it's more intelligent than just a very static flow of data, which a chatbot typically does.
Yeah, if you've got some business processes in SharePoint, as you say, point it to it, and then you can create a chatbot against that agent that allows people to query in natural language and get answers back in such a manner.
Okay, so AI and Copilot is going to continue. This is the start of this AI journey, and I think we're going to continue to see that just come into all Microsoft products. It was even in Microsoft Paint they showed us, didn't they? Yes. You got Copilot in Paint. Go and create me an image of.
They said if Paint can do it, anything can do it.
So that's just not going away. So I'd say continue to educate yourselves. Prompting is big on Copilot. Will be the same within Business Central.
Prompting being how you ask the questions.
How you ask the questions.
I mean there's some. Google it because there's some, or Bing it, or even ask Copilot. There's some good examples of how to structure the questions to a Copilot. So, it's about giving it context and adding as much information about what it is that you're looking for and how you want to see the information represented. I saw a great example. We sat in a session which was about making consultants more efficient in creating documents. And they kind of gave a few examples, and part of it was having an output template as to how you want the document structured. And if you just keep that in Notepad or a Word document, you can paste that as part of your request into Copilot and say, and I want it in this format. Yeah. So it will then, it might say, take this document or take these notes and go and structure it in this manner, and it will just, and even create the answer in a DevOps file that we can upload as a requirement into our DevOps system. And it just did it. And it's like, wow.
And you said that's the skill of prompting, isn't it? That it's what do I want? The more detail you give it, the better response you're going to get back, depending on data. Yeah. Okay, so we've covered AI and Copilot. We'll push that to one side for it. What else from a functional point of view did caught your eye? Did you see? I mean, we've done an episode previous to this around what was coming in the wave release that's just shipped in the last 4 weeks, and obviously bits will be coming out over the next few months. But is there anything else you saw that was?
There's a few bit more detail on some of the things that's already been announced. So the Power BI reports will be shipping very soon, I think this year, and then Those are fixed Power BI layouts that you can't change, but come spring next year, the file, the Power BI file, it's called a PBIX file, they're releasing those in GitHub, I think, so they'll be open source. So if you want to then take those and change them and make them your own, you can do. So I think that was a nice feature. And those reports look good, and there's a lot of them, so that was cool. Field service integration, we've talked about field service integration. It's coming in version 25.5, which I think is November's release. It's going to be a separate BC app, the integration, so you have to install the service management integration app, field service even. But it gives, the integration in there is quite comprehensive. Products, service items, creating your service orders, even things like service items that you can set up in BC appear as a charge that you can put in field service. So all your billing can then come back into BC, and then you generate your service invoices out the back of that, consumption of parts, stock availability by location. Pretty good job for first.
There's always been a demand for that, hasn't there? We've seen it for a long time. We've always been a bit nervous because the product probably, from CRM, it was great in some aspects, but it didn't then link to BC. And as you said, you need to have that overlap for what we're doing. So it's great to see dynamics expanding out and about into the field, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Nice session I sat on was 45 tips in 45 minutes, and it was from a guy called Søren that's been in the BC community for many years. Very great guy, very capable, and he's also provided his slides as well. So if you want to go and look at it, it's called aka.ms/45BC tips. Okay. It's a PowerPoint deck. It's 246 slides. Right. However, one topic might have 10 slides, and it's almost a click, because it's going through the screenshots. It's talking about some of those features that may have been there for 2, 3, 4 releases, but it's a reminder of, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And it might not tell you exactly how to go do it, but it gives you enough to go, okay, I need to go and look at the help to look at that, because it's really going to save time.
We were talking before we started filming, didn't we, that the days of having a big announcement on a directions or on a release notes are gone. Yeah. But then when you look back over the last 3 or 4 releases, like you said, the amount of progress that's been made in small iterations is wow. This product never stops. So we'll make sure that URL's in the description or in the comments of the YouTube video as well.
Like that.
Don't have to go down with the kids, subscribe and all the usual. But we'll make sure that's in there.
Okay. Scalability kind of touched on, job queues. Prior to current release, you could have 3 job queues running concurrently. Now it's 5, but that's 5 per user. So if you do set up different users to run job queues, they can run in parallel. And what it does in the background, it'll offload that to a different service tier. So it means that from a parallel processing perspective, it makes it a lot more scalable. Job queues can also have priorities in there as well. So even if they're in the same category, you can prioritise which ones you want to run first, which again, great little tool. Yeah. Web service calls have had some love, so that there are restrictions on calls into BC via web services. It's quite a high bar. You're going to be doing a lot of data calls, but they've increased that even more. And they've done the same thing with the job queue, where those restrictions are per user. So if you do have anything, technically you've got an integration or something that you're finding you're hitting the wall a little bit, just split that out into a different user, it spreads the load.
Okay.
So, a bit kind of under the hood stuff, but again, all of that helps with scalability. And, sometimes you see those issues where you've got systems that are running a lot of overnight processes and things like that. Yeah. Probably the best slide I saw, I'd say best slide, really interesting slide, was what's coming in the next couple of releases for BC.
Always tomorrow.
Caveated, of course, may or may not happen. So I've got a list of few of the kind of highlight elements. So the BC documents, so layouts, word layouts, etc., getting some significant enhancements, whatever that means.
They are improving, aren't they, the word?
They are.
When they first came out, it was a bit of, they put this, we can do it in Word, sell a dream, and the reality was slightly different. That they're improving.
Yeah, I mean the October release we've just had, there's now an add-in to Word, which means that you can show and hide columns and rows. So that's the bit that was really missing to give us the the move away from RDLC. Yeah. So RDLC is going to be deprecated. That was on a slide. So if you're not using word layouts yet, you need to start thinking about moving over to it. And there's a lot more flexibility as well, that you can build different word layouts per customer, for instance.
Right. Okay.
They even showed doing a Christmas version of a word layout. Yeah. Manufacturing is going to get some love in the next release.
Right. Okay.
So I did see a list a while ago of some of the suggestions. There's 15 probably enhancements. Reporting as well around manufacturing, subcontracting, which has needed a bit of love for a while. It works, but it's just a bit cumbersome. So that's great for us. Obviously, we've got a lot of manufacturing customers, so that was interesting. Quality management. So they're looking at releasing some quality capabilities. That was wave 2, so that'll be October 25.
It's something we're asked a lot, isn't it?
Well, hence why we've got a quality app. Absolutely. Because so many people need it.
If you're listening, Microsoft, and you want to make a ridiculous offer for our quality app, I'm sure we'd be open to.
Shopify, is continuing. Has had in the integration that has had kind of enhancements over the years, recent years, but they're adding in sales channels. So I read that as being integration to things like eBay, Amazon, which obviously we get asked for a lot, via the Shopify integration. So that will be good.
It's good to see that they made an investment, didn't they? And they bought something for the Shopify integration. It's not just sat there then and just gathering dust. It's improving.
And it's so easy to set up and so quick that it's a bit of a no-brainer. Autofill fields. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah.
So just like you used to, when you're typing emails and words, and it's suggesting what it's going to put there, then
that's there's a little bit of AI going on in the background, isn't it? Looking at what's normally in those fields, right?
Ask Copilot about errors. Again, the BC errors traditionally have been a bit like Yoda speak. Dimensions missing are from your GL account, and you kind of have to almost read it backwards to understand what it's saying. So you can ask actually some sensible questions about how it's going to work. Sorry, what the errors are. Interesting one. The agents that are coming to BC, they're going to allow Copilot Studio, where you create your own agents, to actually use actions that are pre-built within those agents. Okay. So you can kind of extend and integrate, I suppose, into those BC agents.
So take some of the functionality that's been pre-written by someone like Microsoft and utilise an element of it to do something else with another agent. Yeah. Okay.
Agents on agents. I said agents is going to be a word that we're going to be very used to.
Those people that remember the Matrix, I think we said, didn't we? Like Agent Smith just replicating all over the place and going around. That's the amount of agents we'll have.
Yeah. Performance as well for next 2 releases. Performance, scalability, high availability, and client rendering speed as well. So it's just going to get quicker and quicker and quicker. Okay. So that was kind of the future.
So it started off with it's growing massively. The performance under the hood you're saying about means it continues to do that, and they keep adding the new functionality, dripping it out, so everyone can take advantage of it. The only thing I was going to add very briefly, wasn't announced at Directions, but it's something I don't think we've covered on here, was some of the licensing. They're not changing anything, so good, I think, in terms of that. But what they have said is, if you're still on a legacy product, so you're still on that on-prem old Navision software license, they will continue to hike your enhancement plan every year. This is now, I think 3 years running, they've gone from 16 to 19%. Okay. I imagine as we go into 2025, we'll have that email again 3 or 4 months before the end of their financial year. So in the summer, saying that's going to be 20% at the end of 2025.
And what value is that maintenance that people pay?
Yeah, especially now, you've not made the jump. You're paying almost dead money out to Microsoft, and they'll acknowledge that as well. Which is why they're increasing it, because they want people to make the jump to SaaS. But have a chat with your account manager or your customer engagement manager here at Techman if you're a Techman customer on that, because we've had that conversation with a lot of customers. Is it worth paying, or should you be banking that and getting it ready for your re-implementation?
It gives you the ability to add users and objects. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah, because you're probably you will be out of support if you're on that license anyway. So.
If you wanted to go and buy a few users and keep them in the bank for what you think you might need, then so be it. But that's the first time I've heard Microsoft actually say that this is a strategy. We've seen it and made the assumption, but having not gone up for crumbs, I don't remember it going up in 15 years and then he's suddenly gone up 3 years on the bounce. You could tell it was coming. They did announce that. And the other thing which has changed, I think is positive, on the NCE agreements, which is your subscriptions for lots of Microsoft products.
NCE being New Commerce Experience.
New Commerce Experience. So this is your subscription. You've got it for Office. You'll have it for Business Central once you're on the on a subscription license. When you sign up for a term, whether that's 1 month or 30 days or whatever it was, a year, which is what most people are on, or 3 years, whatever the term was, you were locked into that partner. So we did have organisations that might have been locked in for 3 years, weren't happy with the service they were getting from their partner, but still had to transact the licenses with that person. They could move like the support or something else. Microsoft have now changed that, so you can move I'll get there in a moment. During the term, post-term, pre-term, during the term, you can now move to another partner. It does require, from memory, both partners to agree to that. So the partner that holds the license would have to say yes, off you go. But you're not tied in there anymore. So there is a method to move.
That could be interesting if both have to agree.
Well, yeah, I think it's to protect. If someone's owed money, they haven't got to release the licenses. So I can understand it to a point, but that was just not available. They haven't removed the restrictions that we want them to remove, which is we have to pay them even if the customer goes bump. But anyway, that's a fight for another day and doesn't affect the end user. But there was a couple of little things there that I thought it's worth reminding customers there's a change coming. But generally, I think it was a really positive event to go to.
Well run as well.
It was, yeah. The organisers.
Seamless and really, really good event. Everybody I spoke to was buzzing and thought how good it was.
Yeah. And we take a lot of people out there. So I know you might have found if you're an end user, the person you deal with wasn't around last week. We honestly believe, that by taking them and getting them involved in this, the enthusiasm, the knowledge that they come back with will pay dividends to the end users as we go forward. But there we go. Okay, Matt, thanks as always for giving us your take on Directions EMEA 2024. Hopefully next time we get together for a podcast, we'll have James and Liz back with us for the full complement. But until then, I hope you enjoyed the episode and we'll see you on the next time on Techman Talks Dynamics. I'd think about the name then. Catch you later. Bye-bye.